do what we've done it's insane. It really is. And that's like, it is the craziest thing I can wrap my head around. That's why I loved it.
Coach Craig, and I'm here with none other than IFBB Pro Seth Feroce, and we're going to get into everything today. We're going to talk about the things that you don't think we're going to talk about. So there you go. So happy to have you. It's been a while, but finally we're able to get some discussions going.
Greg, it's great. I appreciate it. This is something that I don't think most of the people in the community ever thought this would happen. But with the topics we're going to go over and how intense things are in the industry, these type of things need to happen, because I think there's too many people out there that don't fully understand how intense things are in professional bodybuilding and just in bodybuilding in general.
Absolutely. So many people are scared to say things, and you tell it exactly like it is. You do so just like me, except with more curse words. But we pretty much have a very similar channel because we just tell people what we think. Not everyone's going to like it, but we tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Yeah, it's kind of funny whenever you and I were texting the other day, going back and forth, like you're like, hey, this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to go through. And then I'm like, you're literally speaking the same language. Like, we're talking the same way. We're speaking about the same subjects, and it's just in a different manner. I'm a little bit more intense, very emotional. I mean, you have your side, like you said, just a little more curse words come out of my mouth. I'll keep it clean for you so you don't got to bleep too much out.
We can always put cookbook in 56 times and try to sell cookbooks.
I always try to do that. So
I bought one.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so if people don't know, just to give a bit of background, you got like 600 something thousand followers on YouTube. You're an IPD pro bodybuilder. You were on all the drugs, same as me. We both got off of all the drugs. We're both on HRT. And so we're speaking from experience here. We've done everything you've done. We've thought what you've thought. We've done it for a long time, abused PDs, and we're coming here to talk about it.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I want people to take away from the video, I filmed the video with everybody passing. I'll just start from the beginning with there. I've always been pretty open about everything since I came to YouTube in 2016. I just was like, this is who I am. I'm trying to pretending that this isn't who I am. I mean, we're a little fucked up. Bodybuilders we have screw loose. Like, we all do. That's why we love the gym. And like, all of a sudden, like we have different personalities in the gym. And I was like, but steroids play a huge role in bodybuilding. And I'm like, I'm tired of pretending that people act like it's not real. I was like, this needs to be a very real subject because people can get hurt. And for us, like, whenever we first started, we knew like this was screwed up. But I don't know. I don't think anybody would ever change my mind. But anyways, long story short, I've always been pretty open about this. And then with John Meadows passing, who was just an outstanding person, just you couldn't be around him and not feel good about yourself. And then with Cedric McMillan just passing, somebody who I literally competed and won my pro card with, we were sponsored by the same companies, did photo shoots together. The dude did tremendous things for me whenever I wasn't in a good spot. And with all that happening, I just kind of was like, why is nobody saying the real shit? Why is nobody saying how serious these things are? Like, everybody's like, well, we can make it safer. Like, the sport can be safer. I'm like, I mean, we are attracted to it because there's no rules. And I was like, I couldn't keep it in anymore, because both of those guys that passed, they were outstanding dads. They had young men they had young boys. And now those boys are going to grow up with no dad. Like, they're not going to have a dad. And I'm sitting there just boiling in my office, like clicking through videos, just scrolling through. And I'm like, that's it, dude. I'm losing my shit. I was like, I'm just too pent up. Me personally, over the past like week and a half, 10 days that this has been going on, I've had a whole new reflection and a whole new outlook on life. And I'm like, life is very special, and it's how you want to live it. Like I said in the video, I'm not passing judgment, but we all need to wake the fuck up and start having real conversations so that everybody understands the severity of it, how to be safe if they choose to, and then like just progress forward. Because we have to take accountability for our actions. And that video that I did, I caused a big shitstorm in the industry, and I wanted to wake everybody up, and I think I did in the sense of possibly scaring some people because I got a lot of messages saying, "Hey, I'm going to get checked out." I got a ton of messages from coaches who coach a ton of pro athletes saying, "Thank you for making the video." I've had dozens of messages saying, "I need to get checked out. Hey, after we're done this bulk, let's get checked out. I want to make sure I'm doing the right things." So whether anybody liked what I said or not, it is the truth. It's my perspective on it. And my goal was to wake you all the fuck up to make sure you do go get checked out, even though we do crazy things.
Do you think it's possible to just do one cycle? Because when you start, you think, oh, I just want like 10 pounds of muscle. I just want to look good for the beach. I'm just going to do this one cycle. And I keep telling people, once you've done one cycle, it's kind of like a drug that you just can't stop. I mean, some stop, but it can affect you for life. You remember back to how you looked. You wish you could get that muscle, and training is no longer the same. I remember when I started taking steroids, and it was like every single time I went into the gym, my bench went up for 3 months straight. I'm like, what is going on? I'm benching over 500 pounds. I'm like, this is ridiculous, because I'd spent 20 years training where, 2 or 3 pounds of muscle here or there, every now and then put on 10 or 20 pounds of my bench in a whole year. And I'm doing that every week. So how do you not get addicted to it?
Well, I said that in the video about this possibly starting to potentially look like a little bit of an addiction problem. And I think that, like, whenever you go, you love lifting weights, we all love lifting weights. We all chase the pump or this something that is occurring. Your bench constantly going up. I was doing the 80-pound dumbbells for 12. Now I'm doing them for 20. Like, you're like, this shit works. Yes, it does work. So, like, if you like lifting weights in the gym, if you like getting bigger, if you like getting stronger, if you like the pump, and then all of a sudden, like, you start taking these, you're gonna like them. You're gonna like them a lot. And the crazy thing is all of a sudden you fall in love even more so with a feeling a certain drug can give you, because all these different steroids do all different things. That's why I was attracted to them. I was like, I get to conduct my own science experiment on myself. This is the coolest thing in the world, because, we are nerds to a certain degree. We're like the smartest dumb people on the planet. So I'm like, all right, let's do this cycle. And I was like, man, that worked. Well, I just read this article. Like, I read Anabolics 2002 by William Lelowin. That was like my book back in the day. And I'm like, he said, if I take these two drugs together, this will occur. Well, let's find out. So I became so attracted to that like you said, when you go into the gym and then all of a sudden you're constantly progressing. All the work that you were doing, like as a natural bodybuilder or a gym rat or whatever, all those dreams that you had about just getting a much fuller, rounder bicep and capping your delts off and having the traps into the cap delts, into the tricep and a swooping chest, all that shit starts to come true. So if you think that for people not to think there is a mental connection that almost is uncontrollable, you're out of your mind.
Absolutely. I personally am so big into improvements. Anything I can see myself get better in, it's so easy to get addicted to. The dopamine rush, when you start dieting down, you see that new vein, the muscle, the striation, the increased bench. And then all of a sudden I'm taking steroids, and this is going on 10 times faster than normal. And every day it's like, wow, I'm so excited. I trained as long as I could natural, so I milked the most out of it. Then I'm like, well, I'm not making any improvements. And then so I get into the gear, and it's incredible. But like anything, like drugs, no, when you're drunk, however high you are, the high ends. So after a while, that cycle, it comes to an end. And when it ends, it freaking sucks ass, because you go from going up in the bench 10 pounds every week to now every single week I'm getting a rep less. I'm lowering the weight. I don't have the same pumps. I'm looking worse every single week. I'm training my freaking ass off. Every week I look worse. And all I'm thinking is, how many weeks of this stupid PCT before I can go back on that damn cycle, because I want that muscle again. Every single cycle on and off, I couldn't wait to get back on.
You even in the books and all that stuff, you'd read in there like, like depression and mental, like in books in the beginning, I was like, they're talking about depression. I'm like, I don't see how you can get depressed from taking these things. And then they'll talk about, post psychotherapy. And I'm like, I don't need no post psychotherapy. You just start thinking these things. I just spent $1,000 on this cycle. I don't need to worry about another $300 on PCT. Like, it's just a pill. I shouldn't be paying $3 a pill for that shit. You do need it. And you do, and that's those highs and lows. And like when you get the highest of highs, you can have double the low whenever you come off if you do not do it properly. Like there is a way to go about things to be as safe as possible, but it's still going to be this up and down roller coaster of emotions, and insecurities become like all of a sudden, like you believe that everybody can actually see your insecurities through your skin. When you're in the gym, they're like, I was just benching 315 for sets of 15, and now I got to do 225 for 8. I'm such a pussy. Everybody's laughing at me. They're making fun of me. It's like, whoa, dude, you need to calm down. You're losing your head. And that's exactly what occurs. It happened to me.
And no matter how good you get, no matter how big you are, I'm watching Chris Bumstead delt training video yesterday, and he's going on. He's like, I'm a skinny bitch and this and that, and I feel this way. And he really doesn't feel like amazing until he gets to the point where he's at his best. So Chris Bumstead, unless he's Chris Bumstead at peak, he doesn't feel good. He's like, I'm kind of soft right now. I'm kind of like, I'm not that strong. Pretty soon, when you get that solid feel, when you have the 110s and you can go all day with them. And it's like, dude, your worst day, you're stronger than 99% of people. Your fattest day, you're lean as hell. It just becomes a mindset of you're never happy.
We all do it. It's so we're such perfectionists. We're no matter, even if you're just a gym rat, like you want your workout to be perfect because it's your workout. Your peak physical capabilities. And when you're at your physically, whenever you're pumping, man, everything is hitting. Your training's on point, your nutrition's on point, your recovery, your supplementation, your food, everything is hitting. You're like, you cannot fuck with me. Like we know those feelings, and there is nothing like it on the planet. But at the same time, you have to understand if you're abusing PEDs during that time, you're cashing a check that you can't, you don't get it back. Like, and that's the topic that is so intense right now, because you and I, like you and how successful you are and everything that you've done, like your past played a massive role in getting you to this point with your supplement company, your crazy YouTube channel, everything that you are. Your past played a huge role, as did mine. I would not have what I have without this industry and this wild way of life, this mental roller coaster, physical roller coaster, emotional roller coaster. I wouldn't have all these great things, financially stable, everything, great relationships with people, all of it, without cashing that check. I knew that I was hopeful, but with hard work, and I knew that if I did everything I could, I would be in this position. And I cashed that check for X amount of years off my life. And I was okay with it when I was 20, whenever I first started taking gear. I was like, I'm going to cash that check. I know I'm going to be on testosterone the rest of my life. I know I'll probably have some type of dependency. I know it'll happen. And you know what? I don't give a fuck. I don't care if this shit kills me, because this is what I love to do with my life. This is what I want. And that was the check that I was willing to cash, and did cash. However, I knew there'd be a time to stop. I knew there would come a day, but I did not know how it was going to come about and what would happen. I knew it would be health related, but I just didn't know how. And at the time, I didn't care. I was young. I was invincible. I had no kids. I thought, honest to God, I'd never be a dad. I thought, I was like, I have BB Pro, Seth Feroce, travel the world, compete, do the European tour like Jay Cutler and Dexter and Dennis James, and just look like in the magazines. Never knew the internet would become what it is. It was that long ago. I thought that was going to be it. And lo and behold, it did to a certain degree, but now I have children. And even through the time I had my young daughters, I still was like, it popped in here and there, like, oh, I got more than that, more than just me. But I was like, they're looking at me. If I don't do great things in my life, they'll never understand that they'll be able to do great things too. So it was super intense. And there's that roller coaster of emotions, ups and downs in personal life. And my personal life was pretty crazy as well. People know I left in 2013, came back in 2016. But when I came back as business owner and Instagram bodybuilder, not as competitive bodybuilder. And I think personally, that's where I severely fucked up because I didn't get off the test. I never really slowed down. I was the guy just abusing fucking testosterone, taking cycles, and then my TRT was just a cruise of 500 mgs. Not a good idea, Seth. You should back off everything. But and I never got checked out at those times from like 2016 to 2019. I just blasted gear. But the mental aspect of changing over that time, like to now, as my daughter has gotten older and I have my son, I look at life completely different. Everything has drastically changed in my head. Like looking at my daughter being 14 years old, like I'm like, now I sit here and I'm like, I don't want to die. I want to watch her grow up into her own person, her get married and have kids. I want to have grandchildren one day. That's a wild scenario. It's changing my way of thoughts. And then having a son and raising him, and these men that have passed away that lost their dad, that lost their sons, they're no longer here. I want to grow up to raise my son to become a man. So all those things I just said jumbled into one thought is pretty difficult to do because it's super layered. And I mean, for me, this sport is so intense and so crazy. It's so fucked up. And people just need to understand how to peel back layers for themselves personally and make their own decisions, but also hold themselves accountable for what they want to do.
And I think that there's so many success stories that people see, but they don't see all the people who aren't successful. They see yourself, they see me, they see Chris Bumstead, who's like in his early 20s winning the title. And they're like, well, they all took gear and look what they did, and they're not dead. And it's like, for every one success story that we talk about, there's 1,000 that did the exact same thing and nothing great happened. There's so many people that are abusing PDs. They said, well, I'll get the body, I'll have the social media, I'll have the title, I'll have the women, I'll have the men, whatever it is. And it's not the case. And also, just because we look like we won, how do I know I don't get a heart attack next year? You know, we don't know. And so although I look healthy and I feel healthy, how do I know? I don't know the damage that I did. I just try not to think about it because you never know.
Do you think that the majority of people do know? Like, do you think that they know, do you think that they know that taking these things are harming them?
I think that everyone knows that they're not good for you, but I think every single last one of them thinks it's not going to happen to them, because that was my mindset. It's like when you're younger, you just don't think it will happen to you. I see these younger guys like Brandon Harding, who I've done like 5 videos on. He wants to get the pro card. He's done all the cycles. And it's like, I'm doing the insulin now. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, they just don't realize it. They think, well, I'll get a pro card and I'll just quit at 30. And it's like, you're not going to turn pro and just magically quit. And you think that just because you quit at 30, you beat the game. Just because you stop taking steroids after 10 years doesn't mean it's already done the damage that it was going to do.
Sure. And I got a ton of messages from people being like, well, do you think TRT bad? Or how bad do you think this cycle is? And I'm like, guys, it's like the human body is capable of incredible things. It's like, look at the construction worker that's a functioning alcoholic that smoked cigarettes for 30 years. And you're like, man, how are you still alive? The body is capable of incredible things, and everyone is different. Like your weaknesses, your side effects from something could be different than the side effects for me. Like that was part of making sure that you study what you're taking and not just piss into the wind and hope it's okay. But the body is capable of recovering and doing incredible things. And when you're young, I mean, like your body can bounce back like that. However, over time and how we are, like we all push the limits. Like that's all the motivational videos are about in bodybuilding, just pushing limits, and we love it. That's why we loved it. That's why we're attracted. We're like, no rules, push the limits. Sign me up. So, but I think that people just need to be more aware of how intense all of this is.
Yeah, and I want to bring this up because this comes up all the time. Like, what's the difference between abuse of gear and not abuse? And I'm going to do a safe cycle. And my opinion is there's no safe. There's safer, there's better, but there's no safe. And to me, abuse is anything above and beyond what's prescribed by a doctor. So if you're taking, oh, I'm only on 300 milligrams a test. Well, if the doctor prescribed you 100, that's too much. I just did a video yesterday. A guy was given HRT, 100 milligrams a week, 23-year-old. Fine. Maybe he needed, maybe he didn't. But then he said, yeah, I want to compete. He did 400 milligrams a week. It ruined his body. He had cystic acne, bleeding on the bars, wearing 3 shirts, it's sticking to him at night. He's in bed, waking up, nightmare, the mental part of it, the soul, all horrible. 400 milligrams. Most people be like, that's nothing. That's safe. It's not. 100 milligrams was his dose. 101 is abuse.
The doctor's never going to be like, hey, it's a good idea. You're going to take 400 mgs. Doctors aren't going to do that. We, like I was saying, we just like to push the limits. And yeah, you don't want to judge people for the crazy shit they do. But like, if you're going to be crazy, if you're going to do this and you're going to abuse them, it's okay. Like, it's your life. You do what you want to with it. We did it. I did it. I loved it. But don't try and teeter the line. Don't teeter the line. You're like he was doing 400 mgs a test, and then all of a sudden, like the mental things, and it's like, dude, but you think everybody like me, like I look like I got my shit together. Like my company's doing good. I got a beautiful family. If you don't think that like at nighttime I lay down and don't let the day run through my head and go through my own insecurities, you're crazy. We all have them. And when you take steroids and you elevate your testosterone levels to wild numbers, you're going to have some shit going on in your head that like, why was I thinking that? Does everybody else think like that too? I don't think they do. Am I okay? No, you're not, bud. You got 1,000 mgs of test running through your fucking bloodstream right now. So these things are they're all normal in our world, but it's not talked about enough. The mental health in this sport is not talked about enough because it's like you said, like, dude, you take more than the doctor's saying, take 100 mgs because he's like, this is what I've noticed is the safest dose to take. And anything above that, you're going to start toying with some stuff that is not supposed to ever be toyed with. But that's the wild side that we love. Because, dude, the craziest thoughts that ever went through my head are whenever I was blasting tren. I'm taking 1,200 mgs a test. The one time for 2 weeks, I did 700 mgs of tren a week. I did 100 mgs every day. I could not believe what went through my head. Sweating at nighttime throughout the entire night, waking up in a puddle of your own sweat, and then having night terrors, not nightmares, but terrors. You're like, I think I am going crazy. Yes. Yes, you are. You also smell like metal.
And
So,
I also took 700 milligrams of tren exactly as you did. I'm doing 100 milligrams a day. And I'm saying I'm going to take the most I can take and not go insane. And I'm like, I can't do more. Like my heart feels like it's beating in my chest. I have so much anxiety. I can't sleep. I'm sweating. It's crazy. But I'm like, whatever my body can handle, I'm taking. So I took the most, like people say, well, what's your biggest cycle? The biggest cycle I could handle is what I would take. And it's like, that's what you're doing because you're trying to turn pro. You're trying to be the best pro and you do whatever it will take.
you will. And that's what all these motivational videos are about. I will do whatever it takes. And it's inspiring. It's like, dude, to do what we've done it's insane. It really is. And that's like, it is the craziest fucking thing I can wrap my head around. That's why I loved it. I know why I loved it. That's why I'm saying not to judge people based on the crazy shit they do, but then don't go turn around and kind of be like, well, I want to do it super safe, or I want to do, I'm doing this safe and I'm going to do it this way. And then like give really bad advice on it. Like, no, this is fucked up. It's super crazy and it's super intense. You can do what you want to with it. But if you ask me for help or you ask me what I think and I don't give you the answer that you want, don't come crying to me when shit goes fucking wrong, dude. Because shit will go wrong at some point. Yes, it will. Everybody knows it's going to go wrong. And it's super fun. I loved it. But I had to stop because of my health, just like everybody will one day. And it's hard not to be excited and laugh and like kind of, and in a sense, like glorify the things we did, because it's like, dude, it's awesome. They're accomplishments. But then at the same time, like, you cashed a check with part of your life. Everybody's got to realize that. And you know, I think that like you were saying, you know, like as safe as possible, a lower dosage is always safe. However, dude, like, you're taking 400 mgs a test and you broke out in acne, bro. I blasted 1500 mgs. I didn't get no acne, got none, just some big zits here and there, but never anything breaking out. However, the things that really got me, like, I loved Anadrol. I like testosterone. I really like Deca. Love Trenbolin. All those have a serious effect on your red blood cell count, like serious effect. They all have an effect, but I always love the ones that had a dramatic effect on those. Anadrols, if I was training, I'll take an Anadrol. Like, it was like candy to me. And so those things that later on, the health issues that I ended up having, high hematocrit, high hemoglobin, high blood pressure, high resting heart rate, high everything from heavy amounts of steroid use with testosterone, Anadrol, Deca, things like that. Like, those are direct correlations. So, and I think, but like I said, the acne thing, the hair loss thing, not so much. However, other things affect other people in different ways.
Absolutely. We all have different genetics to like be affected for some things. Like, I've never had a problem with my blood pressure or my creatinine, but others, it's horrible. And a lot of people avoid the blood work. They'll avoid the doctor checks because they don't want to know. Why would I want to know? I got a show in a month. I don't want to know. And I've coached girls and I've talked to them and I'm like, what are you doing? Because you sound like me right now. You got a friggin' male voice, but the show is in 5 weeks. You got to stop now or it's permanent. They can't stop because it's the show in 5 weeks and they're rewarding the freaks. And so you're rewarded the more you take, the more you do, the more shredded you get, the more you starve yourself, the more you suffer, the more the judges reward you. And so it's basically a sport of who is the most obsessive person, the craziest person. That's the one with the best chance to win. Just give them some good genetics and that's your champion. Damn right. And that's why we loved it. Like, that's why we're like, let's go. This is for me. And it's crazy because, like, I remember whenever I first started, like going to shows and speaking at events and seminars, like, there'd be parents that come up with their 16, 17-year-old and be like, my son loves bodybuilding. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, no, like, I don't understand what, like, this is all he does. And I'm like, the best way I can explain it to you is he got bit by the bug and, like, he's infected now. He got bit by the bodybuilding bug and there is nothing. He loves looking in the mirror. She's like, he poses every time he passes by one. I'm like, we all do. It's just, it is this crazy obsessive thing that comes over us that we end up loving. And like, you can't change bodybuilding. That's what it is. But in the sense of like you were saying with females, I can't speak on that because I've never coached a female and I'm like, man, like, that's probably that's a road I don't want to go down. But they are rewarding the freaks, especially in the women's physique division. Again, it's starting to look like women's bodybuilding. And I'm like, this isn't the Dana Lynn Bailey era anymore. Like, Dana was beautiful with streamlined lines and you know, feminine muscle. And now I'm like, these bitches are big. They're as big as me. They are. Dana Lynn Bailey would be.
I was like, it was hard for me to get that hard.
Dalen Bailey would be a small figure girl right now with not enough shoulders and too wide of a waist. She would do horrible in women's figure. Crazy. They're way bigger than that. Amateur. I'm talking to women at the gym and I'm watching them doing their poses and the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I don't have enough muscle to compete. I'm like, what are you talking about? You look freaking ridiculous. Oh, but they're this. They look at the women in the Olympia and they think they have to look like that. And so the women with the most amount of muscle, they're thinking, well, maybe I'm big enough for figure. And I'm thinking that should be women's bodybuilding, but it's gone so far in women as well as in men that the standards are ridiculous.